Well, here it is, Thursday night. I just finished another dish of chicken stir fry. I think 4 days is enough. I'm just about ready to go to something new and different. In fact, I should have gone to the bathroom and brushed my teeth before I sat down here, because I really hadn't planned this. This is just an off-the-wall thing. So, I don't know what I was thinking about. Oh, I know what it was. I've been sitting here reading your comments, the recent comments, and you know, there's something you need to know. I've got over 120 stories on here, and I don't know an easy way of picking up the most recent comments. And I have to go story by story and check to see if I missed any. And there must be a way of an easier way, because it takes a lot of time for me to hunt them up. So if you notice that your comment has been on a few days or even a couple of weeks and I haven't shown any response, it isn't because I didn't want to, it's because it's been overlooked in the scrolling down the hunting process. So I've got to figure a way to pick up on your comment in a day or two rather than a week or two, because I know how I would feel if somebody wasn't responding to me when I commented on their posts. So I want to get that out of the way first so that you understand I am not avoiding you. I just haven't found your comment yet. So let's see, what was I thinking about? That's it. The comments. You've all been so nice. You've been so complimentary. I know I don't deserve all the things you say, but I'm enjoying them anyway. And Jan's getting a laugh out of it, because all of you are praising me so well, and she's looking at me and shaking her head, and you know how daughters can be. So anyway, I was reading one of them. I don't remember which one it was, and I laughed because it reminded me of when I had moved back home to my hometown, and at the time I was between jobs. So now and then my mother would come and spend 3 or 4 days with me, or a whole week. And we lived right there in the same town, but she'd come stay with me rather than being at home by herself. Now this was one of those times. I used to watch Tom Snyder. Any of you remember Tom Snyder? He came on after Johnny Carson's show. And that was my private time, to enjoy those shows, because I wasn't sure Mama understood their humor as well as I did. And I wanted my quiet time. But Mama wouldn't go to bed till I went to bed. And I'd say, Mama, you can go to bed anytime you want to. Oh, no, I'm fine. And she wouldn't move from that rocking chair until I got up and got ready to go to bed. So this was one of those weeks she was staying with me. Now, Mama had this little toaster oven. It's one of those that had a glass door, and the door went up and down rather than opening out. And when she used it to make her toast every morning at breakfast. And I don't know why she didn't think my big tapping range oven wouldn't brown her toast or bread, but she'd bring that little toaster oven with her so that she could have her toast in the morning for breakfast. Well, that little toaster oven had a bad habit of, when you closed the door, if that little red light didn't come on, that meant the door didn't close completely, and the oven wouldn't come on. So when that would happen, Mama would slam the door. Didn't work. She'd pull it back down, slam it again. She might do that 3 or 4 times before the little red light would come on. And I'm gritting my teeth and thinking, if I hear that little door slam one more time. Well, that's how it was. So it was one of those mornings. She was in the kitchen. She'd put her bread in the little toaster oven, and she flipped that little lid up. Nothing. And you'd hear a bang. That's the way it would go. And I would count the times she closed that little door. And this one morning, I'd heard it enough. I looked at her and I said, if you slam that door one more time, I'm throwing that toaster oven through the window. Well, she believed me. She went home a couple of days later and she bought her a new toaster oven. But after I had said that to her, she looked at me and said, you act just like Eunice. And I knew who she meant. We'd been watching the Carol Burnett show. And to this day, I can read something or look at something, and I remember Mama saying, you're just like Eunice. So I just thought you'd appreciate that, because we remember, and I still watch Carol Burnett's show, and I love Vicki Lawrence as Mama and Carol Burnett as Eunice. And I think, yeah, Mama was right. I'm just like Eunice. So I'm sure you have stories like that too. But I had one job there, and it was after I left this job. But Mama called me at work. Now, Mama was my age then. She called me at work, and she said, when you get off work, I want you to go over to Kroger's and get me a 5-pound bag of sugar. The manager is holding it for me. I said, why is the manager holding 5 pounds of sugar for you? Well, I called Piggly Wiggly and I called IGA to see if they had sugar. And I finally called Kroger and asked if they had 5 pounds of sugar, and he said yes. And so he's put back a 5-pound bag of sugar. And I told him you would be back up by the store to get it. I said, Mama, this is not World War II. Sugar has not been rationed. I am not going to walk up to that manager and say, do you have the 5-pound bag of sugar that my mother asked you to hold for her? I said, everybody in that store is going to laugh at me. That was just one little incident. There was always something like that happening. And what could you do except laugh about it? So you can look at me and say, yeah, she acts just like Eunice. We had a distant cousin who worked for the little radio station. Now, I've written this story in my book, But I'm telling it to you now because most of the stories I'm going to tell you are already in my book because I don't have any new ones to tell. Okay, this cousin was a DJ at the radio station. And once a year, his mother and my mother had birthday the same day. So people would call in and request songs for birthdays, and there was the lost and found part of the program where people would call in and say, my dog's lost, and if you see him, he's got 2 black spots on each side of his face, and he wags his tail up and down and back and forth, that sort of thing. So there was always something humorous in the lost and found portion of his show. But he also dedicated songs. So he knew every year that his mother and my mother were going to be listening to him because he had to dedicate a song to them on their birthday. Well, one day he's working his show and phone rings. It's my mother. And she says, Johnny, I want you to ask the people, the audience, somebody has stolen my garbage can lid. And I want you to ask them who stole my garbage can lid. And Johnny says, well, Aunt Lizzie, are you sure somebody stole it? Well, it's not there. She said, I went down by the branch. I couldn't find it. It's not there. Somebody stole it. Well, Aunt Lizzie, who would want to steal a garbage can lid? Why didn't they just steal the whole garbage can? I don't know, but I want you to put it over the air that I want them to bring my garbage can lid back. Well, that afternoon, Johnny leaves work and he runs into my brother. And he says, your mother called me today. My brother said, what she want? Somebody stole her garbage can lid, and she wants me to find out who it was and want them to bring it back. And my brother started laughing. What else could he do? And what did you tell her? I told her to go look again, and she didn't find it. Call me back tomorrow. Well, sure enough, the next day, phone rings. Johnny answers the phone. Oh, hi, Aunt Lizzie. How are you today? And she said, Johnny, you don't have to make that announcement. I found my garbage can lid. And he said, where did you find it? And she said, they had shoved it down inside my garbage can and I didn't see it. Well, when you get my age, these are the things you do. You call the gas company and say, my bill is not overdue. You sent me a second bill. Don't send me another one. I paid that yesterday. That's the kind of phone calls older people tend to make. Clear up a mistake. I didn't do this, and you better do that, and I'm calling the commissioner. Those were the people my mother called because she had nobody else to talk to. You have to understand that it gets lonely when you're getting older and your children are busy. Your grandchildren don't have time at all for you. And you can't go anywhere because you have to depend on someone else now. As my daughter said, she has become the caretaker and I've become the child. Well, I'm not quite the child yet, but I'm going to make sure that worth the trouble when I do get to be the child. She's going to enjoy that. So I thought that, I was sitting here thinking about, yeah, Mama used to call me Eunice. And it was funny, because I would laugh when she would say that. But she was serious. So now you know there's another side to me. My name's Eunice. You have a good night. I'm finished with my chicken stir fry, and I'm going to have to come up with something better to eat. I'm going to Louisville this weekend with Jan. We're going to see my granddaughter, and she's going to try to teach me a few little things about YouTube that I don't know and can't understand, and hopefully I'll get it through my thick skull that she's going to be helpful, and if not, we just stick with things the way they are now. And I am reading. I'm meeting people. I'm surprised sometimes when I discover, oh my gosh, I know who she is. And you know, the funniest thing today, down in our mail room, we put little messages if we want people, the residents, to be informed of something. And there was a note left by a lady, and she had a very unusual name. And I read that note, and I looked at her name, and I thought, I've seen this name before. I've seen her on my YouTube channel. And she lives right here in the building where I live. And I don't know who she is. And I'm still on the hunt. I'm going to find that lady. It has to be her, because it's such an unusual name. So I'm anxious to see if it really is her that responded to one of my stories. And I'm trying to find the story now, because 120 some stories, it's kind of hard to find the comment. So stay with me. I know you enjoyed this little story, but I've been wanting to tell some of the funny little things that do happen, and can you imagine? Mama, it's not World War II. Sugar is not rationed. You have a good night, and I hope you get a good laugh out of this too, because I enjoy telling it. Good night.